One of the things that we at Crossroads teach, I think, really well is civil discourse. So, we don't have a lot of tech. Really, we start, kids get a Chromebook in fifth grade, and it's basically a word processing or Excel spreadsheet managing device. But civil discourse, so we're discussion based, especially fifth to eighth grade. So you do your homework, you do your reading, and the teacher comes in and asks a kind of a leading question and says, from the reading last night, do you agree or disagree with Lincoln's approach on this matter, right? And the kids say, well, based on what I read on page 33, and they have a conversation. So here's how I perceive this. Here's how you perceive it. Where are the similarities that we can agree on, and where are the differences, and how do we continue to work together with those on a whole host of topics. The formalized mentoree/advising curriculum is very much discussion based.
Welcome to Tomo Club podcast series, my fellow educators and school leaders, where we talk to school leaders about the understanding the evolving landscape of the future of education. Today, we are privileged to host Dan Morrisey. He's a head of school at Crossroads Academy, and a school well known for its challenging academic program and supportive environment at the same time, whether it's intellectually, morally, or social growth. So, Mr. Morrisey, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited to chat.
Perfect. Yeah, same here. And if you can introduce yourself for our audience, a brief into your journey, that would be really helpful.
Sure. I'm Dan Morrisey, and Crossroads Academy is in Lyme, New Hampshire, for folks who need a pin in that. We are just north of Dartmouth College, the smallest Ivy League. So that's we're kind of northern and a little bit rural. I came to Crossroads as head of school after a career that was, we'll be talking a little bit about mentorship, which was guided by a number of mentors. I began as a PE teacher and health teacher, and moved into the classroom, and then into administration. I ran summer sports schools, and then I became a dean of students. From the dean of students world, I moved into enrollment management, so admission, financial aid. And that's where I last was when this position opened, and I really wanted to be back in New Hampshire. I had started my career in New Hampshire. I wanted to be back in New Hampshire. And it was an interesting conversation to get me here. I received a message from the headhunter, the consultant who did the search, and she said, this position is open, and would love your thoughts on it. I said, oh, you need to call this person and this person and this person. And she said, well, I called two of those three people, and they told me to call you. And I said, I don't know anything about K through 8. I've been in high schools my whole career, and she said, no, we need someone who has enrollment acumen, budgeting acumen, can bring a community together, because we were just coming out of the pandemic. And so I have all those skills, and it's been an amazing kind of journey. I think what works well for me is that Crossroads is the first school to use the core virtues curriculum. It was created by our founder, Mary Beth Klee. And so everything we do is based on the virtues, and they're the cardinal virtues, kind of the Greek thinking. But the kids build a vocabulary of virtues, so you hear them out in the playground saying, "Boy, you really show great perseverance," or "I'm going to have to be diligent if I'm going to do well on this test." So they have the vocabulary at a very young age.
Yeah,
and we use a lot of exemplars in our classes, and we talk to them about virtue a lot, and we really catch them showing it. So
no, that's a very relevant thing, because I have realized that adding vocabulary to your language actually add new dimensions. So sometimes it's difficult to explain those emotions if you don't have those words. So I think
yes.
I have heard about core virtues. So I'm listening. I'm like talking to a school leader for the first time who is following that system. So I'm so glad to talk to you. And of course, that headhunter was hitting the right phone number, because it's very rare to have somebody actually seen multiple different administration aspects, from enrollments to community to classroom management. So yeah, I think that's very unique, and I'm so happy that you are here.
Thank
Um,
you. Thank you.
so today's topic is around student mentorship. How do we have that mentorship culture in the schooling itself? Because I do believe it's a very powerful um, feature in your life. For example, I think even in a startup journey, I think I didn't use that strategy well before, but in the last 1 year, I have like four superintendents as my mentors who I actually talk once every week. So literally, I have four mentorship calls every week, and that has been insanely helpful, because I could cry on those calls, I could bitch, I could complain, I could brainstorm. They helped me course correct, and I've been very real. And it took me time. It was not obvious. It took me time
Yeah.
to become very real with them. And but God, that mentorship really changed my perspective. Every idea that I have, I'm closing my loop so quickly, which I could never done before. So I would love to know your thoughts on your personal journey around mentorship.
Yeah, I think there's a saying. I may get it a little bit wrong, but when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Um,
Mhm.
and I've never understood that. I've never understood that saying. But I think that in mentorship, when the mentoree is ready, the mentor will appear. I
Mhm.
do think that you have to be open to as potential mentoree or mentorees. We have to be open to being mentored, to taking advice, to having a sounding board. As potential mentors, we have to understand that um, the first steps are being present in a mentoree's life, whether they're a student. In my experience, they've always been a student, right? And then they become a former student
Yeah.
um, or a coworker. You have to be present. You have to know them, and you have to be able to give feedback in a way that's actionable and heard. I think your description of your superintendents is interesting, right? It's not therapy. You're not looking to change a behavior through some talk-based kind of practice. It is not coaching where I have this problem going on. No, because coaching is a little third party. It's a little more objective.
Yeah.
Men- Mentors, in my usage of the term, are people who really know and want the best for their mentorees. So, um, and it's in and the best examples from my life of being mentored were after something had been given to me, some feedback or a opportunity. I realized later, wow, that was a mentoring moment, and I listened and I
Hmm.
heard. I may not have said thank you for mentoring me, but I took the feedback and I and I deployed it. I don't. There's an author Jaeger who wrote the book 10 to 25, the science of helping. Let me see, the science of inspiring young people, and he talks a lot about the mentor mindset. Um, Again, giving vocabulary to something you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, Mentors set a really high in education. Mentors set a really high bar, and then they scaffold. Right? They don't just say achieve this. They
Yeah.
say, right, this is where you should be, or this is where I think you can be. This is your potential, or beyond your potential. Um, and I'm going to help you get there by giving you these steps, right, to get there. Um, where sometimes a coach might say, "Well, this is where you should be. Get there," right? Or if it says you got to do better, right? There's no none of the steps that the scaffolding that has to go into getting the person there.
Absolutely. I think I agree on that fact. So, what I could understand from your statement that a mentor has two elements. One is a subject matter expertise, another is that they care positively for you. And yeah, I think so. Like now, if I think about it, for understanding a public school sector, I have a different type of mentor. For understanding an independent school circuit, I have a different mentor. For understanding even charter schools, I have a different mentor. For finance, I have a different mentor. So because those are subject matter experts in that area, at the same time, of course, there is some skin in the game. There is some alignment that happens, and hence they care for the benefit of both of us. So I think finding mentor is a very interesting journey, and of course, it's a match on both sides. So, would love to know what's your policy at Crossroads Academy look like? Do you have a structure around creating mentorship for students, or how does it go?
Yes, especially in the middle school. So the older students. So each student has an advisor, and they meet an advisory.
Mhm.
That period is 4 times a week, and then on the fifth day we have a what we call character ed time,
Mhm.
and so during those times there's a check-in, reminder of what your goals were, um,
Mhm.
how you're going on the path toward the goals, and what support the advisor can give to the advisee to help achieve the goals. On Friday, we do goal setting. So a lot of different types of activities that build up to a goal setting exercise for midterm, end of term, and then reviewing the goals at the next midterm. So, you know, by the end of the term, I'd like to, and they're not, I want to get an A, right? Everyone wants an A,
Yeah.
but we break that down and say, okay, if getting an A is in your goal, what do you have to do,
Mm.
right? I need to spend 10 more minutes on vocabulary. I need to spend 15 minutes reviewing the notes from the day. I need to meet with my teacher in science. So actionable items that they can use. Um, and the advisor and advisee talk about those steps
Mhm.
in a very kind of like, I know you, and I know you can't do another 10 minutes of work on vocabulary. So how are we going to get that in?
Yeah.
Maybe you can do some cards. Maybe I could quiz you. So, maybe in the car on the drive in, your dad could quiz you, your mom, your little sister. So there's all sorts of just ideas, kind of popcorning.
That is very interesting. So, is it like one to one, or is it like in a group setting? Because advisory
Uh,
period I've heard is
It's
mostly in group.
it's both. It's both. Sorry, I spoke over you, but it's both. So there's an advisory group that meets together, and
Mm.
then one meetings. The goal setting, the character ed on
Mm.
Friday, everyone is doing the same exercise. Whether that's one of the things we do is called Mount Rushmore, and
Mhm.
who do you think should be on Mount Rushmore, and why? Who do you think from history? Who do you think from your life should be on Mount Rushmore, and why? Have you ever told them that? And
Mhm.
what would it take for you to be on Mount Rushmore? So it's just some brainstorming on the attributes of what makes someone worthy of such commemoration.
That's interesting. So,
Yeah.
again, is the one-on-one happening every week, or is it like on demand, or like when students seek for it?
So there is a space for it every week,
Okay.
but if demand doesn't support it, the student and the advisor can have that time for free.
Mm.
It's not an arduous time block. It's 15 to 30 minutes. It depends on the day and the week, but it's
Yeah.
not it's not a big long sit down. It's a check-in.
So, what kind of teacher-student ratio do you have to have that kind of support system? Because it takes a lot of it will need manpower, right?
Yeah, it's always a challenge, always a challenge. And so it's 6 to 8 advisees to one advisor, and that's getting a little large for our setup.
Mm.
Yes, manpower is always a challenge in advising systems. Yes.
Yeah, that's very
And there's also the concern of the concern of unevenness. There's always an advisor who's sought after by lots and lots of kids and parents and other others that are less sought after. And so you need to strengthen folks' weaknesses
Mm-hmm.
while trying to get those people who are really franchise advisors, excuse me, to share their secrets.
Yeah.
Um, this I, I talk about this probably too much, but I like baseball,
Mm-hmm.
and in baseball, players are evaluated. There's a lot more metrics now than there were when this system came through, but baseball players are evaluated by five tools,
Mm-hmm.
right? Throwing, fielding, hitting for power, and running, and those are the fielders. And there are very few five-tool players. Someone who has all the tools, right? So you can think about advising or about teaching in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
For your school, what are the five tools that are really important for your school? And can I teach someone who doesn't have all five, the ones they don't have?
Mm-hmm.
Typically in baseball or softball, if you have a player who's a very good hitter, not a great fielder, not a great thrower, but a really good hitter, you put them at first base.
Mm-hmm.
So you're hiding their inability of fielding, right? They don't have to field that much. They just have to catch the ball from the other fielders. They can catch and they can hit,
Yeah.
right? When you're thinking about mentors or thinking about advisors who will eventually morph into a mentorship role, know their strengths and put them in a position of their strengths. In other words, there are teachers at my school who are really good with sixth grade students, the first year of middle school at my school.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think about we don't think about saying to someone who's really good with seventh graders that you're going to go and advise sixth graders. Or there are there is a teacher at my school who's very good at helping kids in the spring say goodbye to this 9-year experience that they've had.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to take him and put him in sixth grade when the middle schools are saying hello to middle school isn't working on his strength. So that's one way to manage the unevenness that happens in advising, and to balance some of them. We started that on manpower, balance some of the manpower issues that we have.
No, that definitely sounds very relevant, honestly, because understanding the student's strength and making them play on those lines is much more important than trying to make an average Joe in that way. So
Right,
makes sense.
right.
So lot of parents actually pay out of pocket when they are, especially in the middle and high school kids, when they're trying to identify the career counseling part, right? And they're paying anything from $5,000 to $8,000 to private consultants. So that's one part to it. So what kind of advice are right now students seeking? Now, I would want to ask this question more on a survey kind of um, viewpoint, that what are the usual advice that students seek for right now?
Well, if someone's paying $5,000 to $8,000 for that kind of advice, I can't. That's a state secret. You need to pay. um, I think that I, I think that my experience. I'm an N of one.
Yes.
Been 35 years in the business, but an N of one is getting um, having parents hear their child's dreams and desires, right? And that's a real challenge. And I have children, and there have been times where I steamrolled their dreams and desires, and now have said, "Oh, go do what you want to do, and what I really want for you is to be happy and to be challenged, and right, and to kind of." So I think that there are kids who are saying, "Boy, I really when I get to high school, I really want to do the trades. And I think that I want to surf, and being a plumber
Mm.
would allow me to make my own schedule and have my own business and be able to surf when the weather was right, when the waves were right. And the parent is saying, "What? No child of mine will surf. His grandfather is a lawyer. I'm a lawyer.
Yeah.
His uncle is a lawyer." And so hearing that, your child's future may not be in law is something that I think people have to hear. I think on that same, I'm not sure if I answered the survey, but on the same topic, I'll tell a story. Uh, One of my children was a very good wrestler. Well, all through high school and a little bit into college before some injuries, but for New Hampshire. When he was in eighth grade, he was ranked number one in the state for his weight class. New Hampshire schoolboy wrestling is not great, but he was still ranked number one.
Right.
It's an objective ranking. There was a weekend tournament to establish, who the state champion was for that level, and he wound up 13th after entering the tournament at number one. And on the way home, he asked me, "What do I need to do? What happened?" And as an objective, a teacher, I would have told a parent, "Do not answer that question at that time. Do not get involved. Just say, 'I don't know, son. I love you. I really love to watch you compete. Where do you want to go to eat?'" That's what I would have told a parent at my school to do.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I didn't take my own advice. I said, "Well, you developed earlier than the kids you were wrestling. You were not as strong as they were at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year as they were. You got out strengthed this weekend. You need to do push-ups. You need to do sit-ups. You need to do pull-ups to get yourself stronger for next season, so you can then take on that competition." He yelled at me the whole ride home. "Look at you, you fat man. What would you know? You don't know anything. You don't know." Terrible. Wednesday, he came home from school and he said, "Dad, can we get a pull-up bar?"
Mm.
And I said, "Why would you like a pull-up bar?" And he said, "Well, I was talking to coach and he told me he thinks I got out strengthed. I need to do push-ups and I need to do sit-ups and I need to do pull-ups to be ready for next season." I had not talked to the coach.
Mm.
I had not told the coach what I thought should happen. The coach had delivered the exact same message to my son, excuse me, that I had.
Mm.
He couldn't hear it from me because I'm too close.
Yeah.
So parents, allow that mentor to be a third party objective kind of advisor. I've heard so often, "How come he does what you tell him to do but doesn't do what I tell him to do?" Because you're his dad, you're his mom, so let the mentor
Mm.
some of those important life decisions, right, with your child
Yeah. No, that's a
in in partnership with you.
no, absolutely. I think that's a very legit story. Um, and again, I think I've also started to see I have a 1 year old, and even I could feel that he ends up listening to others much more right now than me. Because I think kids
Yes,
are much more vulnerable. They throw a lot more tantrums when they're around a safe space, um,
yes,
rather than when they're in a strange or an unaware place. Absolutely. And this definitely applies to forever life goals as well. Uh,
yes.
how do you measure the success of a mentorship program? Like, since as an organization, you are spending resources, you are spending money on this
Yeah,
entire setup. So, how do you
yeah.
measure the success of it?
We survey the kids, we survey the parents, and outcomes are hard to measure, but
Mm.
we survey alums 1 year out. So during their first year in high school, their third year out, during their junior year in high school, and then their first year in college. So we try to get some data points from them. How well you felt supported, how well you felt that the school um, tracked toward its mission, from its mission. How mission driven were we? What kind of help did you? What kind of advice do you have for someone in eighth grade?
Hmm.
What kind of advice do you wish you had from your teachers or your advisor while you're at school? So it's is that hermeneutic? It's empirical. It's it's not metric based,
Yeah.
but it gives us at least some course corrections should we need them.
No, I think that's the way to go. So any insight that you got from this survey exercise that was new to you
Uh,
or counterintuitive to you?
yeah, excuse me. It was a lot around academics. So our academic system is such that, or was such that, and I inherited this change. The English teacher didn't know that the history teacher was also giving an assessment on the same day, and the math teacher
Hmm.
didn't. So the kids were ground down by the workload, by the assessments. So we created again before I got here the a an assessment calendar was created, and so the teachers could track and say the math teacher could say to the history teacher, I see that you're assigning a 3-page paper that's due on Friday. Is that tied to a unit? Because I'm finishing a unit on factoring binomials,
Hmm.
and I need to get finish that with an assessment so I can turn it back in on Monday and we can move on to the next unit. Yeah, I can move that. Or I can put, so there's a kind of or I can reduce that to a page and a half, or
Hmm.
I can have them do an oral report, which is a little easier, has fewer drafts. Um, so that's been something that's helpful for the kids, that they feel that they have more time to reflect, and they're not just always grinding on
Wow.
these big assessments that are falling on the same day.
No, that's interesting. I think if the educators are start collaborating, I think the student journey can be more cohesive rather than pulling them
Yeah,
into different direction at the same time. So again, I love that. I think
yeah,
you're thinking about student from all angles. It's something which is not every school invest or every school give a thought. So yeah,
yeah,
I'm pretty impressed on that front. Um, Also, as a student, like while growing up, uh, I had a feeling that another student used to be a great mentor to me at a lot of places than an elder, because maybe they understand my positioning much better, or I was giving them much more importance because I feel some connection. And sometimes students also explain the concept in like absolutely summarized way. So I used to love that fact. So is there
yeah.
any, have you guys thought about any peer to peer or student to student type of mentorship?
Not formally, no, no. We do more group dynamic type of things with the kids, getting them together, leadership. We have a high ropes course and a low ropes course. So we have them solving problems on those, and it's more working on their group dynamics versus, um, you know, well, in the middle school.
Yeah.
I will say that fifth graders all have a kindergarten buddy,
Okay.
and they help that kindergarten buddy assimilate into the school. The seventh grade has jobs, so may be going into the lower school building and helping with a math class, or helping with a reading class, taking a reading group. But it's not a formal kind of mentorship. It's more about group dynamic
No, I
and leader.
love that. I think having those elements also makes a lot of difference because again, when I think teaching is a very different art, even if you know the concepts, and it tells you a lot more patience. Because I remember when I used to sometimes mentor or teach my people around, I used to get so frustrated so quickly. I'm like, why are you not able to understand this concept quickly, like the way I'm trying to explain? And
Yes.
then I developed the new sense of respect for my educators that, oh my God, they handle 20 students or 40 students at the same time. And I can't handle even one. So, but yeah, I think that's a good exposure to the seventh graders if they're going out and teaching like younger kids, and also the fifth grader and kindergarten. I think that's actually again very impressive. So I think your
Yeah.
academy is impressing me all through the answers. I think you guys have thought out the mentorship part really well.
Thank
Um,
you.
Now taking it a one step ahead, um, as I think, especially about AI, it's constantly evolving, it's rapidly changing, it's offering new access to information, personalized learning, even providing guidance. So how do you see AI impacting the very nature of student mentorship? Both as a tool for mentors and also as a tool for the mentees.
That's not something I've thought a lot about, but our focus, or the focus that I've had to kind of manage, uh, one of the things that uh, we at Crossroads teach, I think, really well is civil discourse.
Okay.
So, we don't have a lot of tech. Um, uh, Really, we start, kids get a Chromebook in fifth grade, and it's basically a word processing or Excel spreadsheet managing device. Um, there's some homework apps that we use, but civil discourse. So we're discussion based, especially fifth to eighth grade. So you do your homework, you do your reading, and the teacher comes in and asks a kind of a leading question and says, from the reading last night, do you agree or disagree with Lincoln's approach on this matter, right? And the kids say, well, based on what I read on page 33, and they have a conversation. So here's how I perceive this. Here's how you perceive it. Where are the similarities that we can agree on, and where are the differences, and how do we continue to work together with those on a whole host of topics. And that there's no computer during those, right? And there's no AI and they're talking. The formalized mentoree slash advising curriculum is very much discussion based, right? And there's not a lot of tech. I also think that if done right, you can um, you can write a an assessment or a prompt that is AI proof still. That may change, right? But you can write, give me examples from the following book that support your, um, I think what I've heard from some schools is that they're using. I'm going to put a pin in that, but I've heard from some schools that are using, yellow, green, yellow, red. So, in for this assignment or for this thing at school, you have a green light for AI. You can put in prompts. You can use AI to solve this problem. You can use AI to help write this paper. You need to cite that you did, and this is how you would cite it. Green light. Yellow light. You can get a start with AI. You can plug this into AI and get a couple of ideas and get some direction. You need to then take that and rewrite it into your own words, and you need to also declare that you've used AI in the following way. Red light. No AI can be used. This is all your own work, and you need to verify it with citations.
Nice.
So really, if you've talked to a lot of school administrators, you've probably heard something along those lines. I do think that we are not a school that has a lot of academic support for kids who have learning differences, but there are kids who are diagnosed during their time here, and what I've seen is that there's a perfectionism to some of our kids, and there's also that ADHD, like getting started, just getting something on paper helps get the floodgates to open and allow the ideas to flow. And we do have a few teachers who, for the perfectionist student, use AI as a prompt generator, and um, for the kid who really needs help starting a project, AI is really good at that at my level, at my school. So that's how we've used it. But in terms of like mentorship advising, it's way too much of what we're doing here, having a conversation.
No, makes total sense. It's just that where I was coming from, in a lot of schools, the, the mentorship or mentees was like a major part of that relationship was also a lot of factual based discussion, right? A lot of
Yep.
data that was not readily available and has started to become much easily accessible because of AI. So the relationship has transformed in for better, and in some case not for better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking though. So like have like are your middle school students using AI like in the school classrooms, like on the Google Chrome or Gemini or Chat GPT? Have they been using it?
Any head of school who says our kids don't use AI is lying to you or is clueless.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm much more clueless than untruthful. So I'm sure that kids are using it, but the teachers are working to create assignments that for which AI would not assist.
Can you give an example of that? Because I would love to know how are they AI proofing the assignments.
Yeah. So our seventh grade English teacher
Hmm.
has five different ways of looking at analyzing a text. I can't even think of one of the ways right now, but he has five different ways of analyzing a text.
Hmm.
Over the course of the school year, he reads over half of the school year, he reads 16 texts.
Hmm.
The assessment at the end of that analyzation unit is to take five of the 16 texts, your
Hmm.
choice, and write and assess them using one of the um, methods of analysis.
Okay.
So that happens with a pen and a booklet,
Hmm.
uh, and the kids walk in and they do it. Could they have used AI the night before and memorized it? Yes, but that would be Herculean,
Hmm.
absolutely Herculean. Um, and he's those five methods of analysis are highly technical, and some of them have a lot of his own twists within them. So he's not AI is not going to be aware of those twists
Of
and
course.
be able to answer the questions in the manner that he's expecting.
Hmm.
So
No, yeah, that makes sense. I think the output format itself can be a unique way of delivery, which can make kids actually work with their own minds and not just blatantly copying it. And yeah, I think I first of all love the aspect of green, yellow, red. I think explicitly sharing it with kids also makes them feel that my educators know about it, so it's nothing hidden, and they're also setting up boundaries. They're setting up guidelines. It's going to be helpful because not talking about it will be catastrophic. Talking about it will definitely help. So
yes,
yeah, interesting, because I was coming to that part that I'm glad your mentorship and mentee program is still running effectively without AI impact. So that's good. How about the teachers? Like, how are they looking at AI right now? Are they looking embracing it, or they're still ignoring it, or on the fence? What's that part look like?
yeah, I think probably ignore or on the fence. Again, in a K through five, in a K through four setting, the opportunity for the kids to use AI is pretty minimal.
Yeah.
Homework doesn't include the homework is such that it doesn't include anything that would be generated from a computer. And then they have to come in the next day and perform. So spelling and vocabulary, sure, they can practice with AI, or they can get hints on how to memorize spelling and vocabulary. We call that spocabulary. And but at the end, the performance is them and a piece of paper and from their memory. Fifth grade, there's a research paper that they could use. And again, for a kid who has been diagnosed with an ADHD or dyslexia, minor, mild, might need a little AI to get them started, to just get some ideas on to
Yeah.
think, okay, this is what this looks like. This is the framework. The fifth through eighth grade teachers have examples of high-end work. This is an A, and they share that with the kids already. They say, look, this is an A. This is what this looks like. This is a great paper. It's from 3 years ago. It's from 2 years ago. There's no names on it. This is your framework, right? Here's the rubric. So, again, are kids using AI at home? Probably, but not to a huge extent. The other thing is, those who use it are guileless about it.
Mhm.
Uh, so, in other words, when you have been reading a student's papers for 3 or 4 months, and then they come in with a paper that's at a whole new level, you say, whoa, wait a minute, right?
Yeah.
Everything is also done in Google Docs. So when you go back and view the history, and you have on day one, the kid wrote one sentence. On day two, the kid wrote 6 paragraphs. Wait a minute, right? And it wasn't, and they weren't typed out. They were just chunked right in, right? Where did she find those 6 paragraphs, right? So that's a conversation about, hey, I noticed on your Google Doc, how did you just create this paper?
Yeah.
Oh, well. So
Yeah.
so one, very different than your normal writing, and two, it just appeared in a Google Doc. It didn't. There was no editing to it.
Actually, that's a very good idea because I was talking to another school leader and he was mentioning how they are converting assessments to be more real time, using oral examinations in the classrooms or written tests coming back in fashion, um, so that they can actually monitor kids in front of them how much they actually retained from their knowledge. But this is a very interesting how you can analyze Google data, like Google Doc data being filled up in a history. I had never heard that. I think that's also very unique in itself. And yeah, I think it can give a lot of insights. And I think that's a possibility of a good tech product out there also, to see,
Yeah.
how many students, how much time did they fill up the doc in? So filling it up in 20 minutes or like 2 minutes. So that can
Right.
give it away. So yeah, interesting. Um, yeah. But I know what I actually want to share, that use of AI is only not for the academic integrity point of view. I think whether it's educators, they can start thinking of AI even at K to 4 level in terms of personalization. I think, as you mentioned, that some kids are dyslexic or have some other neurodiversity, or some students have learning gaps because they're joining at grade 2 or grade 3 and they don't have the foundational structure very solid. So I think a lot of educators that I'm talking to, they are using AI to personalize the assignments, personalize the lesson planning, so that, because as an educator you prepare for the average of a class, but now with AI they can create multiple copies very quickly and feed that it a rubric, and then as per the rubric it can give out different version of it. So on especially on the personalization part, they can save a lot of time using AI. So I think, even if the student academic integrity is not the problem, still use of AI can be a lot beneficial.
I think it is it's not hypocritical, but it's there is a bit of a nuanced. So I often hear teachers in the lounge saying, "Oh, I got this great thing on teachers pay teachers."
Yeah.
Right? Oh, this is a great exercise. Or, hey, how do you do this unit? Oh, I 6 years ago I found on Teachers Pay Teachers this document, and I love it. It works really well. I think there'd be a if someone said, "Oh, last night I was on, I got on AI and I, and I put in and it gave me this exercise," right? So we're not there yet, right? So I think until teachers are saying, typing into whatever ChatGPT or whatever form of AI there is, I need a rubric for factoring binomials, another exercise I talked about, and it spits it out, right? Whereas that doesn't feel right to me. Versus teachers pay teachers rubric for so interesting, right? The dichotomy.
I think that's a comfort zone. I think it's gonna come very
Yeah.
soon. So, and it's not like we will have to comply. That's the that's the
Yes.
reality. Um, okay. So, what do you think? What are the places of where you guys are improving on the mentorship program? Like, what are the obvious gaps that you guys are still finding your way out?
Yeah, well, the biggest one, private school, we're 94% funded by tuition, so we're tuition driven, and our staff is as thin as they can be, right? And I think that you hit the nail on the head with manpower. It's a huge challenge. It's a huge
Hmm.
challenge. And you might say, oh well, there's an AI. We can develop an AI mentor, but I think that's the biggest challenge I think that we have. For us, I think if we could lower the advisor-advisee ratio, that would be helpful.
Yeah. No,
But I think that's probably down the road for us.
no, I think it's not about using AI to replace the human interaction part, but it's also using AI to save a lot of time planning, preparation, uh, especially the administrative task of any relationship, especially in a school setting. I think those are the areas where one has to embrace AI to speed up the process. And with the same amount of man force, you're able to end up doing a lot more.
Yeah.
So I think that's, yeah. So that's been a very interesting conversation, Dan. Any specific point that you thought we have missed talking about? We have tried to understand the importance of it, the structure, uh, the implementation, the metrics of success, and the gaps. Is there anything that we haven't discussed that you want to share with us?
Yeah, no, I think, well, two things. I think that first of all, small changes can have large impact. I don't think, if someone were to say, "Oh, we need to have a mentoring program," and it needs to be this big change. You can tie some threads together that are pretty, already happening on your campus and start to improve. I also think that where I have seen things work really well is where the school stayed true to mission, right?
Mm,
So our mission is core knowledge, core virtues, and when we go outside of those two pillars, things break down. So
mm.
stay true to your mission is a key to success for anything you do.
Yeah.
But interpersonal, we are grounded by the core virtues. We are guided by the core virtues.
Mhm.
So that helps.
Makes sense. I think for running any program successfully, you need to define the principles for it, so that whenever there's an ethical dilemma, those frameworks can help you out rather than going back on the drawing board and thinking what we should do. And we will hit any ethical dilemma for any initiative that an organization, especially like a school system, takes when we are especially dealing with so many different type of students and so many different types of emotions. So I understand. I love that answer. I think core virtues, or find your core virtues. If it is not the core virtue, find your virtues is something that is
Yes.
super important. So yeah, I think it has been phenomenal discussing with you, Dan, around student mentorship. And I think we have never discussed about this topic in our podcast series. So this is definitely unique, and it
Thank you.
definitely going to help people out there. I love your answers. I think there's so many special techniques that you guys use, which is not very obvious out there, at least as per my understanding. So again, I would love to congratulate you for building up this entire structure and running it consistently, which is more important. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge.
My pleasure. My pleasure.